All right, welcome to the Assemble podcast, Retreats and Offsites Unpacked. I have Kristine Palmer with me today, and Kristine is a team building and leadership development facilitator who helps individuals, couples, and executive teams develop deeper self-awareness, communication, and trust through intentional groundwork, interactions with horses. That's right, you heard horses, and mindfulness-based archery practices. Combining her background in business, marketing, and entrepreneurship with her certification in equine-assisted learning, Kristine creates transformative experiential sessions that reveal hidden patterns, strengthen leadership presence, and cultivate grounded decision making. Welcome, Kristine.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Oh my God, where do we start? Do we start with the archery? Do we start with the horses? Um, why don't you tell us about your offering and then we can kind of take it from there?
Yeah, well, you said it all right there. We do team building and we do it on our ranch in Marble Falls, just outside of Austin, Texas. And sometimes people come to us alone. They have something they want to work out, and we do executive coaching sessions with that. Sometimes we've had some couples come out where they have some relationship issues that they want to work on, or just they just want to grow closer. I mean, what I'm hearing more than anything is people want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to feel like others get them, and they're just having trouble connecting. We're just having a lot of disconnect. I think it's understandable in the world that we're in today. There's a lot of chaos and discord and distraction. And so people are just looking to be better connected, be more communicative, communicate more clearly. At work, it's about collaborating. And so we just have people come out and we put them through a series of little exercises with the horses or archery. And the things kind of bubble to the surface. And it gives, I think, being out in nature, but also with the horses, it gives like a new look. It's a new context, a fresh place out of the office or out of your normal routine. And so they get the chance to really talk honestly and openly about what's going on.
So before we talk about what you actually do with the horses, let's talk about how you got into horse assisted or equine assisted learning.
Yeah. So my daughter is actually the reason that we got into this. She is currently 16, but at the age of 5, she started riding. And in parallel with her riding journey, she developed an autoimmune condition that would flare over time, taking her in and out of riding. And so when she wasn't able to ride, that was the only thing she wanted to be able to do. And when she was riding, it was like the heart of everything that she did. And in 2020, actually, she had kind of her biggest flare ever. You know, the whole world is shutting down, and she is actually getting better from her worst flare that started right at the Christmas of 2019. And so I put her in equine therapy because, with the rules of that day, she could not ride at the normal barn that she had been at. And I realized while she was doing equine therapy that she had this relationship with every horse she had ridden that I did not understand. I had ridden a little bit as a child at summer camp and stuff, but I did not understand that horses to her were not just a tool to be used to learn a sport and to develop this technique. She actually had, she talked to them. And I was like, what is that about? And so the more that I developed an understanding around that, I said to my husband, we got to move. She needs to have horses in her yard. You know, she needs to be able to see these horses every day, have the same horses. It was always torturous to her when we changed barns or a horse became no longer rideable for her for one reason or another. And I was just like, she needs consistency, you know, same horses, same experience with them. And so we started looking and we found this property out in Marble Falls and just moved out here and bought 2 horses with the help of her trainer, which I do not recommend to people who are not all in horse people. It's quite an endeavor that took
Yeah.
a lot of resources and a lot more time than we anticipated, but it has totally changed our lives because then as friends and family started coming out and enjoying the horses with us, I started going, what is this? You know, even more deeper, what's going on here? Why do people say they feel so much better when they're out here? And it's the same that I was experiencing, but you know, it just got reiterated over and over. In fact, there was one moment I just keep thinking about of my sister brought some family friends out and the kids said they were coming from, I think, Illinois, and they had the best day. It was the best experience of their life was coming out to the Palmers to ride the horses. And we had just done a little pony ride, you know, just walking them around for a second on the ranch. And so I really wanted to understand more what that was about. So that's when I started looking into equine assisted learning. I knew I already have an MBA, I've already got multiple businesses that I'm running. I didn't want to go back and get like a psychology degree and actually do equine therapy myself. But I did want to be able to offer something to people who maybe didn't need therapy, but still wanted the benefit of this kind of interaction instead of just the hop on and ride, like actually learn something from the horses. And so as I discovered equine therapy or equine assisted learning and really discovered this team building way, like doing this in groups, not just one-on-one in that kind of therapeutic healing modality, but more for how am I showing up in the world today? How am I being experienced by others? And am I getting the responses that I want? Like, am I having the impact that I want? Because a lot of people today focus on intention. Oh, I didn't mean that. That wasn't my intention. Or let's make sure this
Right.
is our intention. But the intention is meaningless if the impact is the opposite of what you wanted, right? If you get the opposite response from someone that you were going for, it doesn't really matter what your intention was. It's the impact you had that's being experienced, right?
Totally.
So I just wanted to understand all that more, looked into equine assisted learning and got
No,
certified.
so how does intention and impact relate to horses? I'm missing that.
Ooh, okay, good question. So you can go in with an intention with horses, but horses can read your energy. They read what's going on inside of you. You can come in and say, I am going to be confident, even though I'm scared of this horse. But the horse is going to go, that's incongruent. You're saying you're confident, like with your body or your face, right? But I feel the energy of nervousness. And that makes the horse uncomfortable. So the horse will back away or the horse will turn away. Or maybe they move fast. They start moving quickly because they're unnerved by this incongruent being in front of them. Sometimes it's also you think you're calm and collected and certain, present and chill, but the horse, runs around the arena with you. That shows me that that's not how you are inside. Even if
Mm,
you think you are, the impact you're having on the horse is they're responding to what they feel. There's no words. You can't fake it. You can't say, you come into a meeting and you're like, oh, we're all fine. We're fine. But really, you just had this terrible drive into work and got this bad news and you're just putting on this face, right? We can do that with humans and mask things. You just can't with horses. They are prey animals and we're predators. So that prey drive in them to be safe, that is like their number one thing. They've got to be safe. And so they have to be able to tell, not just is there a lion out there in the grass that I need to worry about, but is that lion hungry right now?
yeah.
So when they can sense that with their sensory system is just super fine tuned, detail oriented. And so they can sense those kinds of things. So we just can't fake it with them. And you
So
can see
imagine
the
I'm a
impact.
skeptic. Let's say I'm a skeptic, and
Good.
I don't believe you that the horses,
Yeah.
have are frequency readers and energetic.
Yeah.
You know, prove it to me.
Well, honestly, you just have to have the experience. You
You
have a
gotta just
couple
okay.
different
You gotta
times.
come to a retreat and talk to the horses and
It happens over and over. It happened yesterday. I had a group out from a learning and development team, and there were several interactions that happened that are the exact same things that happen at work. It's just a new context, but we saw it. So the pre-surveys had revealed some issues between some people, and then as soon as we got in the round pen with the 5 people, we passed off the horse from person to person to person, and the people that have the issues had the issue passing off the
so
horse.
what'd
And
you do? Were you like, oh look, you got an issue?
yeah, I just asked the question, what's that about? I said, hey, look, this handoff went really well. That handoff went really well. That handoff went well. What happened here? And then the discussion ensues and people start voicing their opinion of what they think this is about. And then they go, and this is what always happens. Or they say, Joe is always like that. Or this
Right.
is the problem that keeps coming up over and over. So honestly, I was a skeptic too, because I call myself one woo. I'm not woo woo, but if you tell me about it, I'm like, it piques my curiosity.
Right.
But then when it happens over and over and over again, I'm like, what is that about? Like there's
Right.
something happening here.
Right.
So it's just the number of experiences I've had at this point, it can't be denied. The horses just reveal things. And a lot of the time, the truth is it's something that people already know. They just
Yeah.
don't believe it, or
Right.
they've been told it, but they didn't see what that impact was until the horse responded
Yeah.
so strongly.
It's like an unknown, a known unknown. It's like you
Yeah.
think you know, but you think other people don't know, and then it kind of
Yeah.
reveals the truth. So, what do you do in that kind of situation where, you talk to them, you say, "What's that all about?" How do you take it from the pen to the meeting room?
That's a good question. Really, that comes down to identifying some new ways that we can be. So we might say, okay, we see that we have this problem here. How do you typically do this? So, this exercise that I was thinking of from yesterday is this handoff exercise. The horse is being handed off. And I've done this in several businesses where it's different, like team functions, like somebody who maybe handles one customer and then hands it off to the service people, and then they hand it off to the renewal people or the loyalty people, right? So they're passed from department to department, or where different departments handle different parts of a project.
Right.
And so we say, well, then what worked in the handoff with the horse? Well, what we saw yesterday was what really worked was when there was co-stepping going on. So one person has a horse, they're walking with them. The other person comes in behind and they take like 3 steps together before the additional person peels off and leaves them to move on. Where we saw the disconnect was when the person peeled off too soon. They hadn't gotten the momentum going, or they hadn't gotten all three in sync before the one tried to leave, and it left the horse confused. Who am I following now? Who's the leader? And that's where it comes up that people say, well, that's what always happens. These customers fall off at these spots in the journey or something. So I say, okay, so what do we do to make sure you guys walk hand in hand a couple steps? How can we go a little further where maybe both of you are touching this customer to be sure that they're really handed off to the next person before that first established relationship exits, stage right. So it's really just coming up with new ideas, since what we're doing isn't working, and we now have confirmation that this doesn't work even in another context, some random context with horses, this still doesn't work, right? So what else can we try? And then sometimes we try that right there with the horses to see, does this work when we try it? But other times it's really, they just needed that spark of, okay, now next time we have this scenario where we're handing off, we're going to try this new way. And so we try to think of 2 or 3 different ways that we can do something.
So you also have some sleeping rooms on your property. When
Actually,
people
only one. We're
only
working.
one.
Yeah, we're
Okay, all
working
right.
to
That's
build
right.
out.
That's right.
Yeah.
So when groups come in and they're doing multi-day
Yeah.
experiences, walk us through what that looks like a little bit for somebody who thinks, okay, well, this just sounds like an activity that I can, do as part of my retreat, but I can't spend a couple days doing this.
Yeah, so a lot of people will stay at other locations. We've got Horseshoe Bay Resort is right by us. We're within 30 minutes of Bee Caves and Lakeway, which is a big part of Austin, and then just less than an hour from Austin. So there are a lot of people who will go to one of those locations. They'll be having their planning meetings. Maybe they have a facilitator for some strategic decision making they're doing, and then they'll come out for just an activity, something fun to get them out of the conference room, get into a new context, like re-spark that creativity after 5, 6, 7, 8 hours in a conference room all day. Everybody's kind of burned out and wants to do something a little different.
Totally.
So I've had groups come out and just do a horse thing or just do an archery thing for a couple hours, at the end of a day. And then you have those teams who really want to get like big change, like big transformation. Maybe they're going through a big change and transition in their business. They're trying to reach really big goals that they haven't done before, or they're merging 2 companies and they need some in-depth time together to really get to know each other, to work through some issues that are just really holding them back. And so that's the kind of thing that I tell them, if you really want to do something meaningful, it needs to be like a full day or a couple of days. And that way we get the chance to do some meet and greet, get to know you activities with the horses and with each other. And then we have the time to kind of, poke the bear and see some of these things happen and come up, these questions, these disagreements, like those personality conflicts that exist at the office, but everyone's on their best behavior in the first few hours, and it's the horses and it's fun. So when I give them the challenge though, and I start putting some time pressure on something, or I start, like even in this one yesterday, we saw the same conflict twice in 2 different exercises. We saw it. So now we really know this is a problem. And then we need time if we want to try to flush that out and actually solve it and try something new. So we'll do a series of activities. We always start with some observation and some general learning and safety tips about how to interact with the horses and why it makes sense to be doing this with horses. Then we do some of those light and fun obstacle course or something to kind of see what comes up. And then I start saying, okay, now do this and you can't talk. Or now do this and we have only 8 minutes. And that's when you start adding those pressures in, the stuff starts to boil, and those really inlaid habits are what come out, because people they don't have time to think and be pretty about it. They have to like go with their gut instinct and make it happen. So they start talking over each other. They start ignoring the person who wanted to try it a different way, and they just go with what worked before. These things happen. And we really need then that final time to let's go back and do something else now, to like, once we got you down in the dirty and like, oh, it's not fun, and we've revealed all these problems, we got to fix it. We got to get everybody back up and positive and hopeful for the future that we can do something about this, and find those new ways of doing something that give the inspiration to do it again differently at the office.
Well, when I did my equine therapy over at PCS, I remember we did this exercise where you had to bring the horse somewhere without speaking. And I failed that miserably.
Oh no.
Yeah. So what does that mean?
Well, tell me more about what happened.
I don't. I just remember that I was supposed to bring the horse from point A to point B, and she wouldn't move.
So horses are looking for a confident leader. They're looking for clear communication about what is expected of them. They, in the herd, you have different roles. So you'll have like the dominant protector, often like stallion horse out in the wild. You'll have like a lead mare, who is a female horse that is reliably bringing the other horses to resources, which sounds a lot like a mom, right? Providing meals and hunting and gathering. And you have then kind of some of the followers. You've got, all kinds of different roles depending on the size of the herd and how many horses you have. So depending on the horse that you're working with and the role you're playing, you really need to have, starting, even though I went back to intention and impact being different things, you need to start with a clear intention. Like, where am I going? Where am I taking this horse? And the horse needs to feel that from you, that you feel confident in where you're going. So you need to look at that cone or to that box or to that tree you were supposed to go to, and you need to walk confidently there. But before you start marching off, leading the way, charging forward, as a lot of people do as the leader, you got to connect with that team member. So something we learned about handing off the horse yesterday.
I just started walking, and he's like,
you got to have their attention. And I call it just catch an eye, catch the eye, catch the ear. And this is where paying attention to the body language and nonverbal communication of horses matters. You need to be taught some of this to begin with, that when their ear flicks towards you or when their eye kind of opens up towards you, they're connected, they're paying attention to you. So I kind of look over my shoulder, I'm like, come with me. And I actually change, if we're in an arena, I could show you, I change my body language. It's like I'm catching a ball. I want to suck
opening,
them in.
Opening up.
Yeah. And so I got to open up. And so my shoulders and my abdomen, like my body, needs to face them. And then as I draw them in, I need to look where I want to go and show them, I want to go this way. And then my hips need to point in that direction that I want to go. And I need to check, are they coming with me? Are they coming? If they're not, I got to back up a couple steps. Let's redo that. Let me catch their eye again and bring them in and then start walking. So there's a lot of layers to it. It's not an easy thing to do. And it's not about getting it right the first time. It's about recognizing just where the holes are. It's that and that's why I say really where it all starts, it sounds boring, but it's self-awareness. It's just understanding, am I even magnetic enough to draw that?
That's so powerful, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Then that's the next step of, can I stay connected along the way? And a lot of people will have things happen like yesterday, the horse was eating acorns. Once they lost connection, the horse started looking.
Totally. That happened to me. I think the horse was eating grass.
Yeah, and so some facilitators will say, oh, make sure there's no hay or no food or nothing in there so that the horse won't be distracted. But that's real life. The people we're leading and the people we're trying to bring along with us towards our mission, there are distractions. They do have other motivations, like a horse wants to eat more than they want to be with you. Well, then you have to fix that. How do you make them want to be with you more than them eating, right? Because their number one need is to be safe, not to be full. They actually eat very little all day long to make sure that they are ready to run if they have to, because they're a flight animal. They're more likely to flight than they are to fight, for instance. And so, a lot of people think that food is like the thing that will ruin it all. And I'm like, no, if you have a solid relationship, you make that horse feel good, they will forego food to be with you. But you have to take time to get to know them, same as people. Right? I have my needs and I have what I want to get done. And so you have to convince me that going with you and doing your thing is better in some form or fashion. So it really is people skills that we're learning through interacting with the horses, which is what it just blows my mind every time. And I'm like,
it makes a ton of sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's your body language. It's how you show up. If you show up to like an event and you on your phone or whatever, like
yeah,
clearly you're disconnected. So I want to switch gears to archery.
yeah.
Uh, what does that have to do with horses?
So the funny thing is, when I got certified, I only had 3 horses, and one of them is a biter. He nibbles on everybody. So I knew he was not gonna. He's the kind we keep in the back, right? He's that guy who has to live in the basement with the stapler, red stapler that nobody can be
Yeah,
shown
yep, Milton.
because he doesn't interact well with the guests, right? So I only had 2 horses, and I thought if I do a full day of team building activity and I'm asking and asking and asking of these horses to interact with people, they're probably not going to like it that much. Like after a while, they're going to get tired of this because they'd rather be out eating with their buddies, right? Than like teaching people these new habits that they need to learn every single day, right? Working with these incompetent herd members. So I thought I need to do something else. And so for my first event that was multi hours, more than I thought I wanted to engage the horses, I asked my husband if he would lead archery because he's a hunter, he's an outdoorsman. Archery is one of his things, and on a Texas ranch, that just seems like kind of a fun thing to do, like that, learning some hunting-ish skills. And so I thought it'll just be fun. We'll just do the horses in the morning, we'll do the archery in the afternoon. And then I watched him teach the archery the first time. And exercises that we do with the horses, he was saying, he didn't even know it. He was saying the exact same things that I was saying. And I was like, what? Like focusing on the one spot and the attention, bring your attention to this one place and breathe. And at the very bottom of your breath, don't think about shooting the arrow, but let go. Like just focus on your fingertip, letting. And I was like, we just did this with the horses like an hour ago. And so I realized a lot of the things about being centered and present, attentive, focused, it's the same skills that make you successful with the horses, make you successful in archery. And so after he taught people in front of me, I went, this is the same, like the same new context, same skill building. So we're practicing with the horses, we practice it again in archery. And I think that really helps people believe that they can practice it at home or in their office and get better results. It will actually, that's how you really integrate, right? It's cross training. It's finding that you can do this meditation in front of your computer or your couch every single morning, but it's not the same as when you go into the office and somebody says something that triggers you, right? So if you practice it at home and you practice it with the horses and you practice it with archery, I think you can really embody those traits, those skills, those mindfulness things that we all want now to be a better leader. It's just more believable that you're going to be able to achieve this at home. And I think it's more likely you'll be able to achieve it because you can apply it to different contexts.
So, what advice do you have for, people who want to start a retreat or want to start a facility like yours with a specialty? It seems like you kind of, it seems pretty natural in how you found this calling. Um, what are some ways that people who have a special skill that they really enjoy, how could they bring it to the masses?
Oh, that's such a good question. I actually also run a marketing firm, so it's immediately making my marketing mind go of, what you do. A lot of people today are doing all these like digital assets or courses or, just that it's kind of, they think is going to be pressing the easy button to like put something out there in the world that is, their information, but it's like on a piece of paper or in a video or something. I just think more than anything, getting people doing things in person now, especially after everything that happened in the last few years, people are craving the real felt experiences. So I
Totally.
think inviting people out to do what you do, even if you make pottery, get behind the wheel with them, let them feel the clay in their hands. I just think it just organically grows. You have good experiences. People are craving that real connection with a real person to do something, but that these like what would you call it? Like tactile experiences, and that's what experiential learning, which is essentially what we do, is it's there's so many senses involved that it ingrains much more deeply in your memory, in your experience, and it comes out later as a lived experience and in those core memories they talk about. So I think it's what I encourage people to do is just start offering the events, and my go-to is just you have a new idea, put it on Eventbrite and invite people to come. And maybe nobody comes, but it's still putting it out there in the digital world that it's
Just
happening.
like test it out a little bit, see
Yeah,
what
test
happens.
it out. And maybe a few different iterations. Like I've offered mindfulness with horses several times, but now I call it embodied leadership with horses, or like lots of different language is going to possibly bring them in. But when you find them that's something that works, it is going to be more word of mouth driven, I think, because especially experiences like this, even you and I talking about it, you haven't experienced it. So it's pretty hard to put into words and to convince you through an ad or through a blog or something like that. But once you've come and then you tell a friend about it, and that friend is like, I don't know what they're talking about. Even yesterday, somebody came saying, you're paying to go like scoop manure or something, was what somebody's friend had said about them coming to this event. And she was like, I don't know what we're doing. But she left going, I can't wait to come back. So sometimes you just have to get people out there in person. And it can be, pricing is one of the things that people really struggle with. Offer something for free to influencers first, and get them out there, get them trying it, let them post about it. And then at least you get some traction through that and some people talking about it that way.
And what comes to mind also is finding the connection between whatever your craft is and whatever the impact might be on leadership or whatnot. So,
Oh, that's a
connecting,
good one. Yeah,
connecting the pottery to like molding a product, or
sure.
being mindful about or deliberate about its design, or teaching those who are not in product development how to do product development. So
Yeah.
that could be a fun exercise for people to think about of
That's
how
a
they
very
make something.
thoughtful idea that sometimes it's like and this is what I saw early on. A lot of the time it was the horses that drew people in, right? It was just because it was someone who loved horses in the past or rode when
Sure.
they were kids. But when they realized when they had to pitch it to their boss, there had to be a business impact there. There had to be a benefit beyond, because otherwise they'd just go golfing, go-karting, escape rooms. Those team building activities will check the box, right? And this is not that, right? So
Yeah.
you do have to tie that explanation of like, why is this different? Why is this better than just a good time?
So facilitators are probably a key market for you because they're the ones who can kind of build that bridge as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, that's an option. I really like executive coaches, different coaches who are already in their coaching teams and they're seeing, I'm giving these presentations or they're watching my webinars or they're doing our online platform, for learning and development, but we're not seeing like real meaningful change, or we think people are just kind of clicking through and checking the box and not really doing something. This is a way to get in person and like in a way force them to do the work of trying to better themselves because it's right there in your face. It's not just a book to read that they say, yep, I read it, and it didn't really have any meaning. So
Got
yeah.
it. Well, this has been, we're way over my general
Are we?
time. So,
Oh no.
this has been a very fun conversation. Thank you for sharing. And it's horseandbow,
Correct.
.com, right?
Correct. Horseandbow.com.
Excellent. So the horse or the equine assisted learning, and the bow is obviously the archery. Um,
Correct.
well, thank you so much for being on, Christine. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks so much to you.
Thanks.